Hi, okay, we are going to work on the Marquee assignment. That is your first assignment in Photoshop, where you will create a selection with the elliptical marquee tool and the rectangular marquee tool, and you will build layers in Photoshop and add color to these objects and build and build till you have a really good composition. And you're going to be looking at opacities and transparencies as you build this file, which is very important in your future work in Photoshop. Okay, so what we're going to do is create new, and you'll get a little pop-up box here. So let's name our file. So I'm going to put my first initial and my last name, underscore Marquee. Okay, oops, didn't create an underscore. And then this is a Photoshop document file, so it's a PSD. Oh, we're going to make it 8 inches, and these have little pull down menus. So yours may be defaulted to pixels, but we're using inches for this. So inches and inches, it's going to be 300 resolution. So make sure that has 300 pixels per inch, CMYK color, and we want to keep it a transparent background. Okay, so we're going to click OK, and there's your document. Now, the little checkerboards shows you that that's a transparent background. So we're going to keep that. We're going to leave that alone. We're not going to build right on that layer. That's going to be our background layer. So we'll leave that layer, and then we'll add another layer. We go to add a layer to the hamburger menu. Click the little 3 lines, and it's called a hamburger because it looks like the bun and then the hamburger on the inside. So I click that. Shoot, I just turned it off. Doing all sorts of crazy things. Okay, so we're going to click the burger and new layer. And I'm going to call this layer blue circle. Now, you remember in our introductory video, one of the artists talked about naming your layers so you could find your work, because sometimes there are 50 layers in a Photoshop file. So you want to make sure you name your layers, and that's one of the requirements of the assignment. So we're going to name this blue circle. And then we're going to go up here to our marquee tool, which is the second tool in the toolbox. And we are going to depress it so we can get the elliptical one, and we can create a circle. So you click and drag, and there we have our circle. Now the dotted line shows you that it's an active selection, and those are called marching ants. We will be talking about marching ants in our subsequent assignments. That means an object is selected. So we have this selected circle. Now we're going down to the very bottom of the toolbox, and this is called the set foreground color. You just saw that little label pop up. This is what this area is called. When you double click it, you get your color picker. And I call this blue circle, so I'm going to pick a blue. So you use your slider and you sort of put it in the area, and then you can sort of click in here for the color that you want. And I'm going to get a nice darker blue and say okay. And now it's created in the set foreground color. Then you can go right to your paint bucket tool, which looks like a paint bucket with a little drip on it, about halfway down the toolbar. You click that and you click inside. And there we have our blue circle. Now we go back over to the layer panel, and here is the opacity dialog box, which gives you a slider. And so I'm going to make that a little bit lighter, not that light because it looks too lavender. I'm going to say 75. Okay. And then I'm going to deselect it, which is Command D. And that deselects your selection. So now we have a blue circle. And to move these objects around, you go up to your move tool and you select it, and you can move it wherever you want. I guess I'll keep it down here. Okay. With your document open, you can also do the keyboard command or Control R which shows you your rulers if you want to use them to measure anything. When you click and drag down, you click on the ruler and drag over, you have guides that you can use. And you can hide these guides by command semicolon or control, command or control, depending on if you have a Mac or PC. You can hide or show those guides. Okay, I'm going to keep them on first just a little bit. But to turn them off, you can command semicolon. Okay, that's the keyboard command or control for PC. Okay, now I'm going to add another layer. So I'm going back over to my hamburger, clicking on that new layer, and I'm going to call this a pink rectangle. Okay. And then I'm going to go back up to my marquee tool. I'm going to depress it because there's hidden tools. When you see the little triangle on the tool, that means there are hidden tools. So then I'm going to click and drag my rectangle. I'm going to go down to my set foreground color, double click it, find a pink. Hit OK. I'm going to go up here. It's more magenta-y. I'm going to use my paint bucket tool. Click. And then I'm going to go to opacity, and I'm going to maybe turn it down a little bit. So there's my rectangle. Now I'm going to deselect it, Command D. Okay. And another way to create a layer is to go down to the very bottom of the layer panel and click on that item right next to the trash can. And that, as you can see by the label, it's created a new layer. So a new layer has been created. It's highlighted, so you can go right in there and type in what you want to call it. I'm going to call this a green square. Okay, so now I go back up to my marquee tool and choose the rectangular one. And I'm going to use my guide and just create, well, that's not exactly a square. So I'm going to deselect it. And I'm going to create a square. Now you go down to your set foreground color again, double click it. And since I called it green, I'm going to pick a nice bright green. Okay, and then I'm going to go to my paint bucket tool and click inside. It has to be selected. So you see the marching ants, you know it's selected. And I'm going to fill it with green. Now I am going to change the opacity. That's a nice green. Now, one thing on my file, I'm going to move this so you can see when you overlap the colors, because you've changed the opacity, it's not 100% opaque. You can see that they create a new color when you have one color on top of another color. The way the order of the layers is, that's called the stacking order. And whatever's on top is on top on your document. Okay. So I'm going to deselect that. I don't know why that little thing's showing up. It's just a weird apparition. I'm going to save. You need to save often. So you save with the, you can command or control S is the keyboard shortcut for saving. And then we're going to continue. So we have the green square. I'm going to do a new layer. I'm going to call this an orange oval. So you go back up to your marquee tool and you pick your ellipse again, but this time you don't make a circle, you make an oval. And we're going to fill it with orange. So you double click on the foreground color and you pick a nice orange. There you go. And you use your paint bucket tool and fill it. Okay, and then also work on your opacity. Let's turn that down a little bit. Okay. So one last way, we're going to deselect that oval and we're going to turn off our guides. So Command or Control semicolon. And now you can see what you're doing. The checkerboards do not show up when you save your file as a finished document. They'll turn out to be white or transparent, depending on where you go with it and what kind of a format you create. Okay, so I'm going to do a square, another square. I'm going to do a smaller square. So, oops, I forgot to create a new layer. So there we have that. I'm going to create a new layer. And this is going to be called a yellow square. Okay. And I'm going to go down here. We're going to find yellow. And we're going to use the paint bucket tool. Pour it in there. And let's change the opacity. And there you go. So what you're doing is you're building a file. I'm going to use my move tool and move that over a little bit. So it's centered on top of that oval. I'm going to deselect it, Command D. There you have the beginning of your file. You're going to keep on going. Going to make a nice composition, looking at the opacities as you add shapes, naming your files, and have a good time. That is it. You also, we're going to save it again. And when you're done with this project, you're going to have a PSD file. That's what we originally saved this document as. But I'd like you to also save it as a JPEG and then post that JPEG to the virtual classroom. Now, how do you save a JPEG? File, save as, and then down here, you select JPEG. It's as simple as that. And there you have it. Now, the PDF that I gave you for the assignment has a few other things in it, but these are the important things. And this video is meant to help you get started. So please read the PDF, check it all out. The requirements for the assignment are in there, which we will go over right now in class. But I just wanted to mention that the PDF and the video are slightly different. This gives you the getting started. Okay. Okay. Have fun.